Assalamu alaikum ya shabab. Today we're going to talk about something called al-ism al-musul. So what exactly is that? Well, if you remember in one of our earlier videos, we learned about something called jumlat asifa, right? And it's really similar to this concept. But just to review, jumlat asifa is a thing that sort of introduces an indefinite noun and serves to like add more detail or richness to it, right? And so like looking at one example, we have the sentence right here. عندي أستاذ يتخصص في الترجمة, right? So I have a professor who specializes in الترجمة. And the first clause here is عندي أستاذ, and it's what introduces the indefinite noun. But this on its own, it actually is a full sentence. عندي أستاذ, but it's kind of like vague, right? And we might need to add additional information to it. So the second clause, يتخصص في الترجمة, adds detail to it. And the key thing to remember here is that both of these clauses could stand on their own in, as their own sentences, their own independent clauses. But when you put them together, it says, I have a teacher who specializes in translation, even though there is no word here for who, right? It's implied. And that's kind of like the essence of jumlat asifa. And the other key is that it deals with indefinite nouns, like a teacher. Now, al-ism al-musul, on the other hand, covers definite nouns, right? Not indefinite nouns, but definite nouns. And, definite nouns in ism wa sifa phrases. And in contrast to jumlat asifa, where the word for that, which, who, etc. is implied, in this new form it is not implied. So we actually have to have our other words for those words, right? And what we do is we have the word alladhi for any definite masculine noun, and then we use allati for feminine definite nouns, and then we have alladhina for plural nouns, but only human plurals, right? Okay, so let's look at how these work in practice. Starting with alladhi, this is the masculine, right? So looking at one sentence, we have الكلب الذي شاهدته في الحديقة يحب أن يجري, right? So where's the definite noun here? It's al-kalb, right? Not kalb, not a dog, but the dog, right? The dog, and then we have alladhi, the dog that, or the dog which, right? The dog which shahidatu, I saw. But we have a special thing here where it always has to refer back to the indefinite noun. So it's not just I saw, but it's I saw it. So translating it literally would be like, the dog which I saw it in the park loves to run. So the key here is always make sure that this corresponds to the gender of the definite noun, whether or not it's an animate or inanimate object. And then that over here with the verb, that it corresponds to the verb. So it's a masculine, it corresponds to the noun. It's a masculine noun. So at the end of the verb over here, I saw it, it's who, not ha, but who, because it's a masculine, right? So let's look at another example. القميص الذي لبسته في مقابلتها العمل ما كان مناسب, right? So the definite noun is al-qamis, right? The shirt, not a shirt. The shirt which, and it's alladhi because qamis is masculine. So the shirt which she wore it. لبسته في مقابلة العمل ما كان مناسب. The shirt which she wore it in the interview was not acceptable. Next we have allati, which is used for definite feminine nouns, right? So for example, let's use al-jaliya, which is community of immigrants, right? So al-jaliya allati أسكن فيها تتكون من مهاجرون كثيرا. So the community of immigrants, right, which I live in, but literally it's I live in it, because you always have to refer back to the definite noun. So the community of immigrants which I live in it consists of many immigrants. Next, let's look at al-kanisa, the church, right? So الكنيسة التي نصلي فيها أنا وزوجتي واحدة من أقدم كنائس في العالم. So the church which my wife and I worship in, but it's in it, is one of the oldest churches in the world, right? This is kind of a complicated sentence because after all of this, it goes to jumla fa'liya, but if you want to translate it, it says the church which we worship in it, I and my wife, is one of the oldest churches in the world. Okay, and lastly we have alavina, which is the human plural, right? The first sentence is going to be المهاجرون الجدد الذين تكلمت معهم يتمنون أن يبحثوا عن عمل. So the new immigrants, whom I spoke with them, intend to look for work. And so this is ism wa sifa, right? المهاجرون الجدد, the new immigrants, whom I spoke with them, intend to search for work. And then lastly, let's contrast that with this. Now this is plural, right? El-amkan means places. But notice how we're not using alavina, we're using aleti. And that is because alavina is only for human plurals. When it is a plural that is non-human, we follow, the old rule, which is the agreement always takes singular and feminine. So we have el-amkan, which is the places which we visited them. زرناها كانت جميلة جدا. So the places which we visited were جميلة جدا. Okay, and that wraps up al-ism al-musul. مع السلامة. زرناهم